Multiplication with a decimal. It can be easy. You just have to know the pattern, and that's just what this video is about. Let's get started with something that you already know. 1 times 1 equals 1. But 1.0 times 1.0 is also 1. Actually, it's 1.00, and we'll take a look at how that happens. But that you know that 1 times 1 is 1. So 1.0 is also equal to 1. So let's take a look at what happens when you multiply 1.0 times 1.0. Well, you just line everything up so that the last number that you have is over the last number that you have, as in here we have the 0 over the 0. Don't pay any attention to the decimals. Do your multiplication and we'll deal with the decimals at the end. Alright, 0 times 0, that's just 0. 0 times 1, that's just 0. 1 times 0, that's just 0. And I put the 0 here because it's under the 1, and so I could add a 0 there if I wanted. And now it's 1 times 1, that's just 1. And then I go through and I add. So this just becomes the addition part of the multiplication. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. And 1 plus nothing is just 1. So our answer is not 100. We look up here. I told you we deal with the decimals at the end. And we say, well, I have one number that's to the right of the decimal, and here I have one number that's to the right of the decimal. The 0 is a number. It's holding a place. And so I'm going to change my decimal here. My decimal would be in this place. I'm going to move it 2 places over. 1, 2. And my answer is 1.00. You already know that 1 times 1 is equal to 1. Let's look at another example. 2 times 2, you know that that is 4. So 2.0 times 2.0 is also 4. You could say, well, it's 4.00, and that would be correct, but 4.00 is also equal to 4. All right, so we line it up so that our last number is over the last number, just like this. And we say 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. Then I add a 0 so that I can go with the next number. And I have 2 times 0 is 0. And I have 2 times 2 is 4. Then I come in and I do my addition. And so I add these two numbers. So I have 0 plus 0 is 0, 0 plus 0 is 0, and 4 plus nothing is 4. Alright, it looks like that 2.0 times 2.0 is 400, but it's not, because I have two numbers that are to the right of the decimal. So I would come down here and I would move my decimal over 2 places, and you already know that 2 times 2 is 4. 2.0 times 2.0 is 4.00, but 4.00 is also 4. Let's take a look at another example. 2 times 3 is 6. You already know that. So 2.0 times 3.0 is also 6. Or you could say it's 6.00. We'll take a look at that. Line it up so that my last number is over my last number. So I have my 0 over my 0. I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to where the decimals are. Those aren't important right now. They become very important later. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. I now come over here, I add a 0, and then now I can multiply by my 2. 2 times 0 is 0, and 2 times 3 is 6. Alright, then I come in and I add. So 0 plus 0 is 0, 0 plus 0 is 0, and 6 plus nothing, in this case, is 6. I count the number of decimals that I have to the right, the number of numbers that I have to the right of the decimal, and so that's 1, 2, 1, 2, place my decimal. So now I have 3.0 times 2.0 is 6.00, but that's equal to 6. Alright, we'll take a look at another example when it's not a 0 that's to the right of the decimal. Here I have 2.1 times 2.1. Well, you don't intuitively know that one. You can't just say, oh, I know what the answer to that one is, like 2 times 3 or 2 times 2. But we can line them up so that our last number is over our last number. We don't pay any attention to the decimal. Then we do the multiplication. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Add a 0 so that I can then multiply by this 2. 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 times 2 is 4. Then I come in and I do my addition. I have 1, 4, and 4. I then count the number of decimal places that I have to the right of the decimal. I have 1 number, 2 number. I come down here and I go 1, 2, add my decimal. 2.2 times 2.2 is 4.41. We'll take a look at another example. Here I have no whole number to the left of the decimal, but I have 0.1 times 0.1. Well, intuitively, maybe dealing with fractions, you already know this is 1/10 and this is 1/10. So 1/10 times 1/10, you just multiply. 1 times 1 is 1, so that's 1. And 10 times 10, that's 100. So our answer is going to be 1/100th. How do we get that? Okay, how do we get this? Well, let's take a look. We have 1 times 1 is 1. Because you see, I've lined my numbers up so that the last digit, the last number, is as far to the right as I can make it. And so I line them up. I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to my decimals right now. So 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 0 is 0. Add a 0. 0 times 1 is 0. And 0 times 0 is 0. Now I add it all up. So I have 1, 0, and 0. How many decimal places do I have? 1, 2, 1, 2, and I add my decimal. So 0.01 is equal to 1/100th. Take a look at another example. This one has an odd number of decimals that we're dealing with. We don't pay any attention to the placement of the decimal. We just line up our numbers so that our last digit, our last number, is over our last number. So we have 1 times 2, that is 2. 2 times 2, that is 4. 2 times 0, that's 0. Add a 0. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 0 is 0. So then I come in and I can add this up. So I have 2. This is an addition. I have 2. I have 5. And I have 2. And a 0. Then I have 1, 2, 3 numbers that are to the right of the decimal. So I have 1, 2, 3. And I place my decimal. So 0.21 times 1.2 is 0.252. Okay, let's take a look at what happens when you don't have a decimal involved. We could say this is 18.0, but we're dealing with 18 times 1.23. Well, intuitively, you can look at this and you say, it's 1 times 18 is going to be 18, and so I know that the number that I'm going to get is going to be larger than 18, but not by a whole bunch. It's not going to be 36. That would be 2 times 18. So it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 24, 25, something like that. So if I get a wildly different answer, I know I must have done something wrong. It's a good idea to start with the end in mind. Here I know I have 18 times 1, so 1 point some decimals. So I know that my number is going to be larger than 18, but smaller than 36. So let's take a peek. What I did was I lined these things up so that my last number is as far to the right as it is, and so I have them directly over each other. And I chose to put 18 on the bottom so that I only have 2 columns of numbers down here to add. I could have done it the other way, but then I'd have 3 columns of numbers to add, and I find that it's easier to simplify things as much as possible. Alright, so now I have 8 times 3, that's 24. And I carry the 2. And 8 times 2 is 16, plus 2, that's 18. So I put an 8, and I carry the 1. So I have 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Then I add a 0, and this also makes it easy. One of the reasons why I did it the way that I did is that multiplying times 1 is pretty easy. So this is just a 3, this is a 2, and 1 times 1 is 1. Now I come in and I add. So I'm dealing with 4. I'm dealing with 11. I carry the 1. That makes this 12. I carry the 1, and that makes this 2. So my answer is 2214, but I haven't placed the decimal yet. Remember, we do that last. Here I have 2 numbers that are to the right of the decimal. So 1, 2, and I place my decimal. My answer is 22.14. A little larger than 18, but not by a whole lot. It's not double 18, so that's correct. Okay, now you give it a try. If you're watching this on YouTube, what you can do is I'll show you the problem. You can click on the stop sign. You can try to work it out. Once you've got it worked out, click on the go sign, and you'll see it worked out. So you can check and say, hey, how am I doing? All right, 1.3 times 3.1. Click on the stop sign. Give it a try. All right, let's see how you did. Well, first I need to line stuff up. 1.3 times 3.1, and I'm going to multiply it. Notice that I put my last digit as far to the right, so they're lined up. So I have 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. Then I will add a 0. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. Then I add 3, 0, 4. I come up here and I look, I say, okay, well, I have 1 number to the right of the decimal, 2 numbers to the right of the decimal, 1, 2, and my answer is 4.03. Let's check to see if that makes any sense. If I'm going to multiply a number times 1 times 3, that would give me an answer of 3. However, I'm dealing with a number a little larger than 1, and so a number a little larger than 1 multiplied times a number that's 3 or slightly larger is going to give me an answer of 4 or 5, something like that. My answer that I got was 4.03. It's probably right. It's a good idea to kind of go back and check, hey, does my answer make any sense? Well, in this case, yes, the answer makes sense. Okay, 6.2 times 7.07. 6.2 times 7.07. Click on the stop sign. All right, let's see how you did. Well, I'm going to choose to put 7.07 as my top number so that I only have 2 numbers as my bottom here. And so I'm going to have 6.2, lining my numbers up. And then now this is the multiplication. And so I can look at this and say 2 times 7, that's 14. Carry the 1. I would add the 1 here. And 2 times 7, that's 14. So I now add a 0. Come in. 6 times 7. This is why it's a good idea for you to know your multiplication table. So we have 6 times 7, that's 42. So we add a 2. 6 times 0, carry the 4. And 6 times 7, that's 42. So my numbers are all lined up. And now I come in and I add. So I have 4. I have 3. I have 8. 3 and 4. And I look, I have 1, 2, 3 numbers that are to the right of the decimal. So I go 1, 2, 3, and I add my decimal. And my answer is 43.834. Well, let's see if that makes any sense. If I was just dealing with 6 times 7, then 6 times 7 would be 42. However, I'm dealing with a number slightly larger than 7 and slightly larger than 6, so my answer should be a little larger than 42, and 43.834 is. All right, let's try another example. 3.04 times 0.003. Click on the stop sign. Okay, well, let's see how you did. Well, I want to line things up so that it's easiest for me. I'm going to put this number on the bottom. That'll make things easy for me. So I'll get the same answer no matter what I do. So I have 3.04 0.04 times, let's see, we have a 3 and a 0 and a 0 and a 0 and a decimal goes there. So I check to make sure that I've copied it correctly. 3.04, 3.04, 0.003, 0.003. All right, now I go through and I do the multiplication. 3 times 4, that's just 12. I carry the 1, but 3 times 0 is 0, so my 1 goes here. And then I say 3 times 3 is 9, so I have the 9 that's there. And multiplying by zeros just means that everything else is going to be 0, so I'm pretty much finished. But now I say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers that are behind the decimal. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 0.00912. And so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my answer in this case is going to be 0.00912. And if you think about this, how much sense does that make? I'm multiplying 3 times, the way you would say this is 3 thousandths. Well, 3 times 3 thousandths should be around 9 thousandths, and this is 9 thousandths. So the answer that I got is probably correct. All right, let's try another example. This one has no decimal involved with one of the factors. So click on the stop sign, see how you do with 8.7 times 3. Okay, let's see. I'm going to put the 8.7 on the top so that I'm just multiplying times one number down here. And this is multiplication. So 3 times 7, that's 21. So I have a 1. I carry the 2. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 2 makes it 26. So I have 261, but I haven't placed my decimal yet. I only have one number, so I come in and I place my decimal, and then I think about it. Well, 3 times 8, if I was just dealing with 3 times 8, that would be 24. But this is almost 9, so 3 times 9 would be 27. So the answer that I should get is somewhere between 24 and 27. And it turns out 26.1 is between 24 and 27. Okay, let's try another one. Click on the stop sign. All right. And we can set this up in either way. We can put this number on the bottom or this number on the bottom. It doesn't really matter. We'll get the same answer. Some of them just require less work. And so I'm going to put the 7.0001 on the top, and I'm going to put the 4.02 on the bottom. And that might be the easiest way, and it might not. But now I'm going to have 3 columns to add up. So here I have 2 times 1 is just 2. And then that's a 0. And then that's a 0. And then 2 times 0 is 0. And 2 times 7 is 14. So we wind up with 14 there. Now I add a 0, but I'm multiplying by a bunch of zeros here. So I can say 0 times 1 is 0, and I can add that, and I can go all the way through, and I'll just get zeros. Or I can just add another 0, and I can multiply. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 0, 0, 0, and 0. So I'm going to have a 0, I'm going to have a 0, and I'm going to have a 0. And then 4 times 7, that's 28. Now I come in, and I can add all of this. So I have 2, 0, 4, 0, 4, 1, 8, and 2. But I have to count my decimals now. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 decimal places here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I place my decimal. Well, then I go back to check to see if this makes any sense. 4 times 7, that's going to be 28, and this is a little larger than 7, and this is a little larger than 4, so my answer should be a little larger than 28. And 28.140402 is a little larger than 28. All right, let's check out another one. We have 0.003 times 0.003. Click on the stop sign. Okay, we have 0.003 times 0.003. And so now we multiply, we lined up our numbers so that the last number was as far to the right as possible. Now we have 3 times 3, that's 9. Then we're going to have just the rest of everything's going to just be zeros. So we can say, well, I could go through the multiplication process here, or I could just recognize all I'm going to get are zeros. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 zeros that are to the right of the decimal. I can come in and I can add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I said that incorrectly a moment ago. I said I'll have 6 zeros. No, one of them will be the number 9. So now I can count and I can place my decimal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So multiplying 3 thousandths times 3 thousandths gives me 9, let's see, that's thousands, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths, millions, 9 millionths, or 0.000009. That's the correct answer. All right, let's try another example, 1.05 times 5.01. Click on the stop sign. Okay, let's see how you did. Well, in this case, it doesn't matter which one you put on top or bottom. It's going to be about the same amount of work. I'm going to put the 5.01 on top and the 1.05 on bottom. Now I multiply. Notice that I've lined up my last number as far to the right. So I have 5 times 1 is 5. I have 5 times 0 is 0. And 5 times 5 is 25. So I have 25. Then I can add a 0. But since I look at this and I know that all the numbers are going to be zeros, I can just add another 0 and then start multiplying times 1. 1 times 1 is just 1. 1 times 0 is 0. And 1 times 5 is 5. Now it just becomes an addition. So 5 times 0 is 5. 0 plus 0 is 0. 5 plus 1 is 6. 2 plus 0 is 2. And I have nothing to carry over, so I'm just left with a 5. Now I count my number of decimals. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to check to see if that answer makes any sense. It's always a really good idea to check to see if your answer makes any sense. Well, this is just number 1 or slightly larger, and this is just number 5 and slightly larger. 1 times 5 is 5, so I'm going to get an answer a little bit larger than 5. And I come down here and it looks, yes, 5.2605 is slightly larger than 5, so it must be that I placed the decimal in the right place, and it looks like it's a good answer. If you are getting these right, then you know what you're doing. You may write to me with your comments, questions, and suggestions at alanmorris@yahoo.com.